Hi everyone, this is Sunny from Database Tech. So today I had come up with one more new session on SQL Server Database. In today's session, I will explain what is output parameter in stored procedure. So output parameter is used when you want to return some value from the stored procedure. Now what does this mean? Let's understand this practically in SQL Server, and for that let's open SQL Server first. So here we have a table name is employee details, which is the existing table that belongs to database name is master, which you can see here from this drop down list. And this drop down list have all the databases that belongs to this server. So now let's execute this query to get the data from table employee details using select statement. And how to execute the query? Select the query and click on execute. You can see we have the below output from this table. So now let's understand output parameter and its use. But before that, let's create a stored procedure first. And in case you are not aware of stored procedure, how to create it, you can go through my previous session of stored procedure part 1. So what is the syntax here to create a procedure? Create procedure and the name of the procedure. So let's give it a name as parameter sp. I had given the name as parameter sp, but you can give any meaningful name which depends on the requirement. Then as begin end. This is a structure to define a procedure. Now what we have to do here with this procedure is we are going to pass some value from the salary column to this procedure, and it should give us the count of that value. What I mean is, like if we will pass 8,000, then it should give us the count as 1, because this 8,000 is present only single time in this salary column. And if we are going to pass 2,000, then it should give us 1, 2 and 3. That's how it should work. So let's modify our stored procedure accordingly. Now how many values we are going to pass to this procedure? It's only one value. So we have to define a single variable for that, which will hold that value that we are going to pass from the salary column to this procedure. So let's define that variable first. And how to define variable? Salary int. I had given the data type as int, because we are going to pass integer value to this procedure. Now what's next? To create our query. So let's do that. It will be select count. What we need is we need count of that value. So we can use the function as count. Then in that we will pass salary, which is a column name, because we need the count from salary column. Then from table name, what's table name? It is employee details, where salary, which is a column name, equal to. So here you have to think, now what we will pass here. This procedure is going to be dynamic, and we are going to pass some value, and this variable is going to hold that value. So we will use the same variable that we had defined here, because this variable is going to use by this query. Okay, now what's next? To execute this. And how to execute? Select it and click on execute. You can see in the message below, command completed successfully, which means our procedure name as parameter sp has been created. And if you want to check this parameter, this procedure, where can you check? You can check this in Object Explorer from the left side. But first you have to verify in which database you have created this, and that you can check from this drop down list. Whatever the database is selected here, you have to search this procedure in that database. Now right now it is master, so we have to look in master database. Here it is. First you have to refresh, so that the latest changes you have done will reflect in this master database. refresh it, then go to programmability, expand, then you will find stored procedure, expand this also. It's taking time, no issue. So here it is, dvo.parameter_sp. This is our procedure which we just created here. Now next is we have to execute it. And how to execute this procedure? Because right now we had saved this query in procedure name as parameter sp. We had not yet executed this. And how to execute? Execute and the procedure name, which is parameter sp. So if we will execute this now, will it work? Let's see, let's give it a try. It will not, because this procedure expects some value, because we had defined a variable here, and that variable we are using here in this query, and it needs some value. So let's provide some value. But first let's check the data from the table. We are going to pass some value from the salary column. So let's pass 8,000. For 8,000 it should give us return as 1. Let's see it will work or not. You can see it's giving us 1. To verify it more, let's pass 2,000. Now it should give us 3. It's giving us 3, which means our procedure is working as expected. Now this procedure which we created is input parameter procedure. It expects some value and then it has given us a return. But what we have to understood here is output parameter and it is use. Now let's suppose we need this output to get stored in some variable. So whatever the output we get here, we get it from stored procedure. We were not able to store this in some variable. Now our requirement is we have to store this 3 in some variable, and then accordingly we have to create our query. What I mean is, like, if we are getting the return as 3, then we have to insert some data. That can be the scenario, that can be the requirement. So we have to use this output and we have to store this in some variable. And to achieve this, what we do, we can use output parameter. Because if you will see the definition again, now you will understand. Output parameter is used when you return some value from the stored procedure. Now here what we have to do, we have to return some value from this procedure, and here we can use output. Let's see how we can modify this procedure to store this value which we received from procedure in some variable. Let's do this. So what we do, we'll define an output variable. And how to define? Output variable, and the data type will be int, and this is output variable, so we'll define the keyword as output. Next is you have to do some modification in the query as well. So the same variable which you had used, you have to use it here also. Now what will happen with this? Whatever the count we will get from this query, that will get stored in this output variable. Okay, so the same variable we had used here. Next we have to execute this stored procedure again. But if we execute this right now, what will happen? It will create a new stored procedure, because here it is create and this procedure is already created. So either you have to change the name of this procedure, or you can do the change in the existing procedure. And if you want to do some change in the existing procedure, what you have to do, you have to make it alter. Okay, this is showing error. We had missed the comma here. Now let's execute this again. Command completed successfully, which means our procedure has been created. So we had modified the existing procedure with some new changes, with some output variable. Now we have to execute this. Let's execute this now. If we will execute this now, will it work? No, because it needs an output variable, and that we have to create first. Because see, we get the return in this variable from this procedure, but we have to save that value somewhere. And to save that variable, what we have to do, we have to declare one more variable. And how to declare a variable? Declare @output value. You can define any variable. I had used the output value, but you can give any name. Now we have declared output value, and then we have to use the data type as integer, because the value, it will be of integer type. So had defined the data type as integer. The next here, now for the salary we are providing 2000, and for the output variable we have to provide this output value which we had defined here. And with this you have to use the keyword as out. Then only this output value will return some value. Then now let's execute this again. Command completed successfully, but we still didn't get the count. For that you have to print the value. Now whatever the data, whatever the value has come here, that gets stored in this output value. But now we have to print that. And how to print? Select @output value. It is the same which we defined here. Now the return will come to this variable. So we had done the print here. Now you can use this variable anywhere. Now let's execute this again. It should give us 3, which means now we have this return in this output value. So you can use this in our further queries. Like you can use, if output value is equal to 3, then insert some data in some tables. You can do changes accordingly. Now you get the value. So this is how you can use output parameter. So output parameter is used to return some value from the stored procedure which we have seen. We return the value and save that, store that in this output value. And one more thing, it's not like you can only return integer value. You can also get name, you can also get character values. And for that you again need some modification. Let's do some modification. Let's get the character value also. Let me show you that. Now let's see, let's suppose we need some character value from the name. We can make the we can do the modification here. Select name from employee details where id is equal to @id, and here what we will do, we will make it @id int. So this, it will be same, but here it will be varchar, because now we are going to store character value. So we have to define the data type as varchar, and here also it will be varchar 20. Let's give it 20. That's it. First we'll do the modifications and execute this procedure again. Command completed successfully. What we have done, we define the variable as id int, then output variable which is going to hold the name variable and the name value, and the data type will be varchar because we are going to hold character value, and then in this output variable we are going to store that name, which is name from employee details where id, and we are going to pass id. It will give us that name for that id. Then declare output variable which is again varchar, because this output value is going to store that value from this output variable. So varchar 20, execute. This is same, but here we have to pass 1 from the id column. Okay, so let's execute this now. You can see it has given us Sunny. So with use of output parameter, you can get the integer value, you can get the character value as well, and you can get the multiple values also. And this is how output parameter we can utilize in stored procedure. So that was it for today's session. I hope you have understood. We'll come up with the next session shortly. Till then, have a nice day. Bye bye. Take care. Be healthy, be safe, and love your family. Bye bye.